All right, Colin, I'm glad you can be here today. I've got a case that needs solved.
Okay. Yeah, I'm on it. I'm on it. What do you need?
All right, so rumor has it that a famous character has been murdered brutally in public.
Oh, okay.
His
Um.
name is Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh man. Well, he isn't he been dead for like 20 years?
Well, they keep killing him is the thing.
Oh, okay.
But this last time seems to be the most egregious. So I really need you to step it up this time.
Okay. Where do you need me?
I'm not quite sure what is L.A. It might be L.A.
Okay.
There's gonna be a cop, and he's gonna have the dead body in a bag. So I'm gonna have you meet him by the elevator,
Okay.
and Colin, how's it going?
Is that like his son in the bag? Or whatever that is. Oh
Yeah, what
man.
okay, so Colin, we always joke that who knows what will happen in the next
Oh no.
in the time
Jeez.
between us recording, as it turns out, quite a bit. um, so we're gonna start off the episode with like loosely video game connected stuff. We talk about them only because they are video game properties, but
Mm-hmm.
there's some movie stuff happened. Particularly the first official trailer for the Sonic the Hedgehog movie released. It's coming out later in the year, or supposedly later in the year.
It's like
However,
November, I think.
I
Yeah.
think I think November, but I wonder if some of the news that came out after the trailer came out might prevent that from happening. I'm not sure. So
Let us
so
hope.
Colin, that's all we can do at this point.
Yeah.
So Colin, it felt like maybe Sonic the Hedgehog was on an upward trend. Sonic Mania happened.
Yeah. Team
So
Sonic Races is coming out, I guess.
yeah, so you see, there was some good news along the way. However, this trailer, whew, received quite the backlash on the internet, as you would expect it to. Um, I personally, I kind of feel like the movie. I mean, the first time I watched the trailer, I got the vibe of like, all right, this is, it's not great, but like, with the exception of Sonic looking awful,
Ugh. Oof.
um, I thought everything else was like, okay, this is mildly inoffensive,
Right.
loosely. Jim Carrey was just basically being Jim Carrey, which
Yeah,
I guess I
basically.
guess like kind of fits for Dr. Robotnik or Eggman or whoever he. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, but then I watched it a second time, and it suddenly became much worse.
Yeah, I've watched it a couple times. It's pretty awful. A lot like it really gives me this like Pixels vibe, like that
Yeah.
movie that, and it's just like it's people just like trying to be like oh nerdy and like this is what video games are, right?
hmm
And it's like every character has its genesis, and it's like oh my gosh, please don't. A lot of people are talking about Sonic's teeth. I guess that wasn't the first thing I gravitated towards.
No,
It
and
was just
honestly,
his design is so bad.
like the head of Sonic, like his face itself, I don't mind that much.
Mm-hmm.
I think just its proportions, it's his body. I
He
think
looks
that's
so
the thing.
big.
It,
Like,
it's more human than it should be, and
yeah,
and that takes it, especially when you consider like the context around like Sonic fan art and how like weird that this Sonic itself can get.
mm-hmm.
It doesn't help, but as it relates to another video game movie, because I don't want to trash on Sonic too much. He's
Oh, that's what this
had
podcast this is all about.
yeah,
It's,
yeah. It's Sonic Trashers,
mm-hmm.
episode 61.
Exactly. Welcome back.
Um, so over the weekend, I saw Detective Pikachu, which is excellent. But it had me thinking recently about like why Detective Pikachu, like before seeing the movie at least, like why were the trailers for that movie resonating so hard for people, whereas the Sonic one is like scaring people away or causing people to make memes. Um, and I think the thing that like kept coming back to me is whereas Detective Pikachu, you watch that trailer and like that trailer is just world building. it is like Ryan Reynolds cracking jokes, and then the rest of it is world building, and it's like showing you a glimpse into a world of Pokemon.
Yeah.
That gets, and it's exciting because you're like, oh my god, like it helps that the visual like designs and the CG is actually really good in that movie, but you're seeing things and it's like it's coming to life in a way that you imagined it would, I guess, like in the best case scenario, and it all makes sense and it works and it's exciting to see. It's like it's a new version of Pokemon that we never have seen before, while still being pretty true to the source material. Whereas Sonic, it's like, hey, he's an alien in the world.
So do you think it would have been better if, like, there were, I didn't want to use the word furry, but, like, if there were, like, other animal friends of Sonic, like, already just hanging out in the world and getting along with one another, like, that would have been like, oh, okay, this actually isn't so bad, I guess.
Yeah, I think if they're going for this, like, this concept of, oh, he's an alien, or maybe he's from a different dimension and he's found himself in the real world, where it's like there's nothing recognizable as Sonic the Hedgehog other than Sonic. It's just gonna be super weird. Like, it's gonna be weird no matter what, right? So I think whereas Detective Pikachu gets a lot of points because it just leans into it. There's like an authenticness to this world that they're creating where you believe it. When you first go into Rhyme City in that movie, it's like, yes, like you're seeing all of this, like a lot of it's fan service and a lot of it's just like things that you notice, like when you're watching these characters walk down the street and you see, if you pay enough attention, you see a Charmander just waddling over to, just completely almost something that you may not even see on 2 or 3 or 4 viewings of it, right? Like there's just it's so dense and there's so much there. But when you see it, it's exciting because you recognize it, and it's not just this very bland, like, what is this movie without Sonic? It's just people, you know what I mean? Like with there's nothing else there. Like it's all very surface level. And so I guess my thinking is, like, with Sonic the Hedgehog, it's, if you have it you don't necessarily have to have it take place in a specific, like, location that Sonic has been to. Rhyme City is a new place. But having, I don't know, chows, or having things that you could see and recognize as, oh, this is Sonic, right? Like, Rhyme City is there's some futuristic, like, there's a futuristic nature to it, but you see the billboards and the signs and advertisements and the way humans interact with Pokemon, like all of it just works, and it creates something that you can, like, latch onto and know this is unique here. And Sonic has none of that. Sonic is just this really poorly designed version of this character.
It's it's like it's a stranger in a strange land kind of thing. Like, oh no, like, who's this character? And it's supposed to be like, oh, who is this? And it's like, oh man, he's so cool. He's like catching missiles when he freezes time and throws them back. You know what I mean? It's like, whatever.
Yeah.
I feel like that movie's been done 100 times already.
So I will naturally be seeing the movie the night it comes out, of course.
Yes.
But I do want to give, like, just some thoughts on Detective Pikachu, because we did talk about it. I think when we first started recording, we talked about it some.
A little bit, yeah.
And I shared, like, some thoughts with you and some concerns, but, like, I was almost more excited for this movie than I was Avengers. Not quite, but, like, it was up there. I would say it lived up to expectations. I don't want to spoil anything too much. I will say, Colin, there was something specific. There was, like, one concern specifically I had as it related to the story of the 3DS game.
Yeah.
In regards to a twist, like, all I'll say about that is I thought it was handled so much better in the movie.
Okay.
I don't think it's any less obvious necessarily. I do think that if I hadn't, like, seen the story of the 3DS game, I don't know if I would have, like, caught on as quick as I did. I think it's maybe a little less obvious, but it's not the only twist. It's not the only thing that, like, is really interesting that they do in the story. There's one, I don't want to name the Pokemon because it would kind of give it away, but there's a specific Pokemon at the end of this movie that the way they use its ability in connection to a specific twist and like the way that plays out in the scene is maybe one of my favorite things like I've seen in a movie in a long time.
So let me just guess.
Okay.
So Pikachu is not actually a Pikachu. He's actually been Ditto the entire time, and the real Pikachu is somewhere. But it's the Ditto that can actually speak English.
So anyways,
Well, maybe I'm right. I don't know. I have no idea. I just made that up.
Are you gonna see this movie?
I
'Cause
am.
You should.
I am.
Okay.
I do plan on seeing it.
Okay.
I think it looks really fun. I haven't cared about Pokemon for so long. Like I don't
Yeah.
even know. I used to know the 151 really well,
Yeah.
and then after that, I knew absolutely nothing. And I kind of remember some of the designs from 151, but I don't really remember everybody's name. But I'm still really interested in seeing it. I think it looks really fun.
It's super fun. It's funny. The like, especially with a movie like this in that first trailer, I had some concern that a lot of the funnier parts would be in the trailers, and
Right.
that's sure, but there's still a lot of like really funny stuff that they haven't shown. The entire played out version of the Mr. Mime scene in the movie is like hysterical. It's really it's so good. Like it's one of those it's one of many sequences in the movie where you can just tell that like the writers and Ryan Reynolds probably to some extent like they very clearly like care about the source material. There are very clearly people who really like Pokemon working on this movie because it's very evident like in one of the early like right at the beginning of the movie there's a scene where it's just a very simple person trying to like throwing a Pokeball trying to catch a Pokemon, and like the context around it, what happens, how the whole scene plays out, like it's super funny. It's kind of almost nostalgic in a way, like they killed it, like and the movie isn't necessarily perfect. There's definitely some things where I'm like all right, that could be better. I think some of the Mewtwo stuff, like there's one thing in particular that I'm like all right, this is entering Sonic territory.
Oh yeah.
But that, and I guess that's one of the more surprising things too, is just like overall 99.9% of the Pokemon in this movie look really good.
That was going to be one of my questions if some of them look, because I think Pikachu looks really good. I think Charizard looks really good, that part in the trailer.
Oh man, there's a
thought
you've seen in
Greninja
the
looked real weird.
Greninja I think actually looks really good.
Okay.
In the movie, Psyduck is incredible. Like I never would have expected, if they're like, okay, we're making a Detective Pikachu movie, I would never have guessed that Psyduck would be like a really funny character in this movie, but he is. So in like the trailers, you've seen them go to like the underground arena or whatever, because they show a little bit of the Charizard stuff there. There's a fight there between Blastoise and Gengar, which is just like incredible. There's a lot of Pokemon that like I want when this comes out on like Blu-ray and stuff. I want there to be like a lot of just like almost a Pokemon gallery where you could just view the 3D models.
Oh, right.
Or something, cool. because there's a lot of Pokemon that you see them for a very brief moment, but not long, and like I want to just look at them because they do look like they really do look that good. At least I think the Squirtle, Charmander, Bulbasaur they nailed. Yeah. Mewtwo's the only one where like Mewtwo overall I think looks good. There's just one specific thing that happens that I'm like, that did not look that great. I wish they didn't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
cool.
Man, it's very good. It's super funny. They were clearly having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
And like my theater loved it. Like it was mostly full, I think.
Nice. Do you think we'll get a Detective Pikachu?
Yeah, so from what I understand, it's already been greenlit.
Okay.
I'm curious what they'll do, because this movie actually doesn't really set up for any sequels necessarily.
Yeah.
It's a pretty clear ending, which I appreciated. I think I mentioned to you before, the 3DS game actually has a cliffhanger where it never really reveals like the thing, basically.
Yeah.
Which is strange. I think they were planning to make more of those games than they didn't. So that's kind of weird. But this movie actually like ends. It has a very clearly defined ending. The credits, so the like initial like animated credits are really really cool. Again, just totally like very fan very fan servicey, and totally just something that like I think a lot of fans will just really appreciate. They're super well done. No mid credits, no anything like that.
Yeah.
Not really any teases towards like a sequel. So I'm curious what they would do with it.
So I am also kind of curious. You know what probably the next video game movie we're gonna get is after Sonic and Detective Pikachu?
I believe it's not like a new movie, but I'm pretty sure they're re-releasing in theaters like the first Pokemon movie.
Oh, okay.
As like a limited release kind of thing. I'm pretty sure, or
I think I saw that.
I'd have to look it up again. They're doing something with that. I don't remember what.
Well,
there's Sonic and if you're thinking of
something,
I'm
thinking of something, and I'm wondering if we're gonna maybe see something at some point. But remember, I think Illumination is doing a Mario Brothers movie.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
And I'm like, I was just thinking about that the other day, like with these two movies, and I was just like, man, like when are we gonna see that? I wonder.
Yeah,
I think that could be very interesting. Because it was maybe like 2017 that was announced. I'm sure they're still going through some early stuff. But I just thought
I completely forgot about that. But you're right. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. Smash Brothers universe, setting it up. That's what everybody says.
I loved the picture that was like floating around Twitter where it was like Detective Pikachu, and it was showing all the different like Nintendo-based movies and the different phases.
Oh yeah, I've
Super Smash, and
I've seen that too.
Yeah. Oh, it'd be great.
Yeah.
This has me excited. I would like to see I'm like after this movie, it's like I want more. Like I want more just live action Pokemon movies.
Yeah.
It definitely is interesting. There isn't I think I was reading like an interview with one of I think the director of the movie, and they were just talking about like how much money they were just like losing by animating Pikachu talking.
Oh, right.
Because there's a pretty healthy amount of different Pokemon in the movie. It's still a small selection, all things considered, like considering how many you have to choose from. I think they were mentioning so there aren't any of the Mewtwo aside, there aren't any other legendary Pokemon. There is they walk into an office room that has statues of some of the legendaries, and they were basically saying that's the most they could do with the money they had. So it's kind of interesting to know that, because you have to wonder with these kinds of movies, what kind of budget are they going to get. I think right now Detective Pikachu's opening weekend is at a 54 million or something, which is great for a video game movie, but it's maybe on the lower end.
Right.
I actually think that's kind of surprising to me. I get that it's still in the Avengers is still basically raking in every single penny out there, and it's if you look at at least my local theater or a few of my local theaters, a good 60% of the rooms they actually have are playing Avengers.
Yeah.
Whereas Detective Pikachu's got 4 or 5 showings a day.
Yeah.
So I get that. So that's probably a major reason, but it is a little bit surprising to me that, considering that Pokemon is especially with Pokemon Go, it's a really big deal, especially now, even now. And all of the just fanfare this trailer was receiving, I guess I kind of thought that maybe it would do better. I don't know, but I think releasing this close to Avengers probably was one of the sole reasons why it's not. But yeah, it's
sure.
Great.
Yeah,
I highly recommend seeing it.
Yeah. It's something I want to see. A lot of good movies coming out. It's really good.
Yeah.
So.
Well, anyways, video games. So
you want to talk about some Persona?
Persona. Yeah,
that Joker
live-action
movie's.
Persona.
Yeah, I was gonna say that Joker movie's coming out.
Yeah, with
the end of
Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah,
it's
as
really,
Joker. Yeah.
God. It's hard to believe that it's like these games were formally revealed or announced, or no, it was Persona 5 Scramble, I think, was the one that was announced, because P5 Royal we've at least seen.
Yeah.
Anyways,
yeah.
time is an enigma, but so Persona 5 Royal, I've had a bit more information on. It's actually, like, I'm getting pretty excited about it. I've been wanting to replay Persona 5 for a while. So I'm kind of in the camp of, like, I'm just gonna wait till this comes out now, because we do have some new characters. It sounds like we're gonna have some new dungeons. I think I think I read something about how they're adding a third semester to the game.
I was thinking, I heard something with that. Yeah.
So it's cool. It's gonna make that game very long, and it already is quite long. But that's exciting. And then the other thing that we don't really have that much information on is Persona 5S.
Switch.
Which Collin, so naturally.
Oof. Oof.
Oof. Oof is right. So Persona 5 Scramble, the Phantom Strikers, it is coming to the Switch. However, it's not Persona 5. It is a Persona 5 Muso game.
Who'd have thought?
Yeah.
I guess it makes sense, like, more that I think about it, but, like, that wouldn't have been what I would have guessed. They're taking so many different properties and doing stuff with them now.
They are, and for this game specifically, we have all of, like, 10 seconds of footage.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, I'm kind of totally down for it.
Yeah. Did you play, like, Dragon Quest or Hyrule?
Yeah, like, I played Hyrule Warriors on the Wii U. I have not played the Switch version or the 3DS. I played both. Dragon Quest Heroes, although Dragon Quest Heroes 2, I think I got, like, halfway through and dropped it. I don't remember why. Like, I really liked the first one, and the second one's, by all accounts, like, a better game. I just, for whatever reason, I just dropped 2. But yeah, no, I'm into it. Like, I really like Persona 5, and I really like the characters. And so I've been wanting to revisit the world anyways, and I'll get a chance to with Royal, but, like, I'm kind of down with just, sometimes with games I want to revisit, like, the characters or the world, and maybe they're really, really long, so it's kind of intimidating to do so. And so I kind of like just having these Muso games as a chance to just do that and hang out with them a little bit more.
Right.
While not having... And, like, Muso games can be pretty long, and they have a lot of stuff in them, generally, but, like, it's maybe... For whatever reason, it's not as intimidating. Because you can just kind of jump in, hack and slash a bit, and jump back out and be okay.
Yeah. And I hope it's... Because I feel like the last one that came out, the one that I can think of, was Fire Emblem Warriors, and I feel like that just came out and no one talked about it.
Definitely came and went. I didn't play it at all.
Yeah.
I
want to say that was 2017 that came out. That was, like, the first year of the Switch.
That sounds right.
Because I remember, I think it also went on new 3DS as well. But yeah, that was in the fall with, Wolfenstein, Mario, and Odyssey, and, like, Assassin's Creed Origins. And yeah, I just think and, like, Xenoblade was also that fall also. And yeah, I felt like that Fire Emblem Warriors just really just came and went.
For sure. Yeah.
So did they even give a date on Persona 5 Scramble?
I don't believe so. And then 5 Royal is out later this year in Japan, and will be next year for the US.
Gotcha.
So,
okay.
Anyways, we got some other game announcements. So we have one more, and then we're gonna kind of dive into the state of play, which happened this past week. So first, Mike Bithell, who you may know from Thomas Was Alone, Volume, and then the other game I'm
Subsurface Circular.
Yes,
he did, and then he did another circular something. Yeah. I don't remember what it was called.
I don't either. I've not played them. I've heard great things about them.
Yeah, I don't even know.
Really.
I don't think those are on PS4. I think those are only on Switch. The subsurface circular kind of stuff.
I believe so. So he announced this week that they're making a John Wick game based off the movies. So it's called John Wick Hex. It looks like it's a turn-based kind of tactical strategy game.
Felt very much like I kind of compare a lot of stuff, which like I feel kind of like gives injustice sometimes to some games, but felt very much like Volume and like Hitman Go kind of set. So like you're setting up like what shots you want to do. So more than likely there's like parts where he shoots like 3 or 4 guys. I'm assuming you have like either a meter that allows you to take out multiple enemies at the same time, and it's like best like you can't just abuse that all the time. So yeah, I kind of assume it's like that. So if you remember, there was a VR game that came out a few years ago by like around where John Wick 2 came out. It was like John Wick Chronicles or something, and it was like it felt like a super hot kind of game where like you're playing as John Wick in VR. I think it was on 5, where it's like humanly possible you can't actually do the actions like in Call of Duty and feel like John Wick every single time, but it's kind of condenses it into, I don't want to say more like tabletop kind of feel, but it's got kind of like a cell shaded art style. All we have is about like a 1-minute trailer, and it's just kind of John Wick, Keanu Reeves style, sneaking around, going around piers, lining up different shots. So I'll stop in at one part in the trailer where you can do like a takedown, a push, strike. Like you have all these different options.
Yep.
You have like these different dots. Do you want to move to this part and cover? People have alert kind of stuff, like very much like a Volume or Hitman Go kind of thing. But I think this is a really neat kind of surprise that somebody like Mike Bithell can get Paramount or whoever, Lionsgate, I guess, to do a game like this, which isn't this like, hey, make this huge AAA $60 shelf game.
Right. I think it's super cool, and like, I don't know. I've not seen any of the John Wick movies. I don't really have like a strong desire to necessarily.
They're fantastic.
I know that they're good. I know that they're quite good, and I have no doubt that this will be great as well. Like, everything him and his people do. Or does he have like it's always weird because I feel like a lot of his games just have his name attached to them. Do they have a studio name? I guess I don't follow it enough to
usually Mike Bithell is just, I've usually just heard it called Bithell Games, I guess.
Oh, that might be right.
Like when I play that, like if you play like Thomas Was Alone or something like that on PSN, like the publisher just says like Bithell Games.
Yeah.
So I think
that sounds right.
He's probably got people that work for him, but I assume it's not, a very big team.
Yeah. I think it looks cool. I don't know if I'll play it just because I don't really like have a strong attachment to the movies, but I have like, they put out really great stuff. Volume is really good. Thomas Was Alone is really good. Yeah. So I have no doubt that like this will also be really good. It's cool. I like you said, I think it's cool that like they get a chance at making something like this.
One thing I think I would say that would be a biggest draw, I guess, for the John Wick movies for you is like the first one's like a classic. I feel like it's like one of those classic movies. Like I almost feel like it's gonna be like Taken, like when we go back and it's like, oh, remember Taken, like how cool that movie was like the first time you saw it, and then they made 2 sequels that like no one cared about. But it's basically like you go watch like a fight scene in a movie, and I was doing this with like Avengers and even like Shazam that I saw a little bit, and it's a little bit different because it's like superheroes. But John Wick kind of, instead of like the close up, like, oh, there's that punch connects, and then like another cut to another shot, and they keep going back and forth. John Wick kind of does this, like, we're kind of going to take like a little bit of a wider view of the action, and just so much of it is just like one shot.
Yeah.
There's a part in like John Wick 2 where he's like going through shooting a whole bunch of guys where like it's kind of this like big open area, and like the camera is just like moving from like left to right through this entire building, and it's just like all one shot of him doing stuff. I kind of think of it as did you ever watch Daredevil on Netflix?
Oh yeah.
Like that second episode that he's in the hallway. Yeah,
that's totally what I'm like, the hallway.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that, where you can just see the action so much more clear, and it's just much more gruesome rather than all these different cuts.
Right.
And I think John Wick 2 is, very rarely do I walk out of the theater and just say like, oh, that was incredible. And I really did with John Wick 2. Like there's a lot of times like, I'll just have to wait and see, and I'll have to sit on it. But very excited for John Wick 3. And I was surprised we got it so quick, because John Wick 1 was 2014, John Wick 2 was 2017, so I thought it was going to be 2020 before we got the third one. But no.
I was actually like doing mild research on it before recording, because I was thinking to myself, am I crazy, or is this fast? Like, does this seem fast to anyone else?
Yeah.
Because now John Wick 3, I'm assuming, was like something that people knew was coming.
I think so.
Did I just miss the news, or I felt like we only just saw like the first trailer for it recently?
Maybe like
I might be
November last year we maybe got
okay.
something, or maybe January, something like that. I thought we got a trailer.
Okay. Because like I remember we got one like a few weeks ago or something, and it was like, oh, okay. Oh, it's out. It's out next week. Okay, great.
Yeah. It's been happening. If you heard all the Rage 2 stuff going on of that tweet or whatnot.
Yeah,
Don't mean to divert to that, but
so for context, there was
it's like a Forbes writer, I think.
So Forbes, yeah, they have a lot of like just contributors basically, and so some guy, I not to defend their tweet, but I personally had never heard of the guy, but he wrote an article that was basically very smug, like, oh, Rage 2 is out this week, but if you didn't know that, I wouldn't blame you. Like, all right, dude.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have enough negativity in the video
with his
game.
verified Twitter account.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, whatever. I'm sure he's fine. It just, the article itself kind of annoyed me, to be honest.
Sure.
But then the Rage 2 Twitter account responded to him and was just like, LOL, who are you?
Yeah, who even are you? Or something like that. Yeah. I didn't really have that much of a problem with it. I felt like I've heard other headlines that I didn't read the story, but I've heard other headlines that are worse than that.
Oh yeah,
about stuff, I guess. So I didn't really have too much of a problem.
It's kind of weird to me because, like, I mean, I guess you can say what you will about like their marketing. Like, if you don't like it, then fine. And I don't know that I have a strong opinion, but like, I don't really pay attention to video game news as much as I used to. Yeah. And I was pretty well aware of it, like, of it coming out this week. I don't know. It seemed weird, but whatever. Also, their response, while funny, is also kind of weird. But
did you see like the Walmart Canada pre-order?
Yeah.
Thing you get like that fake Rage 2 box that Bethesda drew up last year. Yeah, that's really funny. Like with their little etchings and scratches. Like, nope, this is wrong. I thought that was really funny.
It is funny. I'm not sure what I think about that game. I'm like really on the fence about it. I've seen some people who have like early copies describing it as the gameplay of Doom 2016 meets Just Cause. Mm-hmm. And that's, considering how I felt about that Doom game, it's like, all right, okay. I'm not sure. So that's coming out this week. So I guess we'll find out next podcast whether or not what decision I made.
Like that's just another game that I have basically this like it's literally a list on my phone that is called like the rent list and stuff like even from like Far Cry 5 to Last Guardian to Battlefield 5. I have like Vampire on there, Devil May Cry 5, like Days Gone. Like I have so many others that I'm just like, well, if I maybe see it really cheap and, if I decide on a weekend I feel like I could really play a lot of it, I guess. But,
The red box near me is claiming that it'll have it this week. So
nice.
If it does, that might be a good red box game. But we'll see. So anyways, Collin, State of Play, the second one.
Yeah, I love how they just like State of Play, May 9th. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yep, so we have our second State of Play this past week on Thursday. Thursday afternoon. And they were pretty clear up front. Like it was announced like the week before, I think. They were pretty clear up front, like this is what you can expect. And those things were an in-depth look at Medieval.
Yeah, my butt.
I was gonna say, like, I don't know if in depth is necessarily the word
it was
I would
like
use for
it was like one of the shorter trailers of the entire thing.
Because like they said in depth look at Medieval, a new look at a new like Sony Worldwide Studios game, and it will be 10 minutes long.
Yep.
So I saw that and went, okay, cool. I'll check it out. I'm curious to see more of Medieval and when it's coming out. But I didn't really have much thoughts on it. And the way it was worded, I thought, oh, okay, in-depth look at Medieval, cool. Maybe it's like 6 or 7 minutes of Medieval and then 3 minutes of like whatever the new Sony game is.
Right.
And then I opened up a thread on Reset Era, talking about the state of play. And one of the very first things I saw was, all right, so Medieval, Final Fantasy VII, some new Sony game. What else do we think there's going to be? Like people posting their predictions. And that was the moment for me where I'm like, well, hold on.
Yeah.
Excuse me? So basically leading up to this, for context for other people, Shinji Hashimoto,
yeah,
from Square Enix, is retweeting the state of play tweets like every day.
What if he didn't? Like, you know what I mean? That's just what I keep thinking. I was like, what if he didn't? Like, what if
so he
wasn't
keeps retweeting
doing
them,
that?
like making these little comments. There were some other like insiders like saying, like doing kind of a wink wink nudge nudge kind of deal. So we talked a little bit leading up to it and just like, okay, is this crazy? And the more, I don't know, for me, the more I thought about it, the more I realized, well, I mean, Kingdom Hearts 3 is out. They do have like a headliner position at E3 for their press conference.
Yep.
They are talking about expecting like big margins later in the year for some game. Or later in like their fiscal year, so not necessarily late this year. So like it felt like there were some things that we already knew that were lining up. And so I totally bought in. Luckily, and the great thing about this state of play is like they left no time for us to wonder.
Yeah.
As soon as it started, you hear a certain chime. And it's, if I remember correctly, it's on the main menu of Final Fantasy VII when you select, load game, new game, stuff like that. Or actually, really, I think it's just Final Fantasy in general. There's this like chime, like this confirmation kind of chime that plays.
Yeah.
That played at the very beginning of State of Play.
Yep.
And for whatever reason, I didn't recognize it at first.
Oh yeah.
Like I'm watching this and I hear it and I go, wait, what? I know that sound. It took me about like five seconds, and I was like, oh, okay, all right. So I guess that is going to be here, but we'll get to that because that was their closer. Yeah. So, Collin, we open up on a new trailer for Monster Hunter World, specifically the new DLC that's coming out, or new expansion coming out in September called Iceborne.
Yeah, so this was like kind of a longer trailer than I feel like it needed to be. And so, of course, this is where I started getting into worry mode, Curtis, because I'm like, well, wait a minute. They had that like Final Fantasy XIV Monster Hunter World like collaboration. Like, is this like actually what they're teasing? Like, is the Final Fantasy XIV stuff going to be in Monster Hunter World? Like, like that's what the sound effect was for, because it was right before this trailer. And then it's like, like they're gonna do it. They're gonna be like, Final Fantasy VII's coming to PS4 at PSX, and be like, nope, it's only the PC version. But no, they did it later. But yeah, this is a massive expansion DLC, which is the words they have in the trailer.
And after the fact, they did have like a live stream, like Capcom did, going into more details. I didn't watch that, so I don't really know too much about it, but it's more Monster Hunter World, which is exciting.
It's not really surprising, but I think the DLC is like maybe $40, and then you can buy the full game and the expansion for like $60 or something like that. Like that kind of stuff. So
that's cool. Yeah. I never finished that game. I got pretty far into it. I think it was very, very busy at the time, but I ended up never finishing the campaign for it.
I don't really know if it's worth mentioning too much, but there's like a PlayStation Plus trial for the month on Monster Hunter World, if anybody wants to try, I guess.
And am I crazy, or like wasn't there like a Monster Hunter World and Witcher like thing happening?
Yeah, so there's been several. I think maybe at least 4 or 5 now that I can count crossovers.
Okay. So has that already happened, or?
I think it has. I think it has already happened. You had like Witcher, you had the Mega Man.
Yeah.
You had the Horizon. You also had Street Fighter being
Yeah.
Capcom. I want to thought that there was another Sony one. Like I didn't know if it was Gravity Rush or some reason I thought either. But
Okay.
I feel like I could see a God of War
Right.
thing or
Right.
something.
Well,
I
I'm
don't
glad
know.
I didn't like just completely make that up.
No, there
Uh,
was a Witcher thing.
so anyways, so we move on from that to a game called River Bond. So this is a kind of dungeon crawler ish looking thing.
Yeah.
4-player couch co-op coming in the summer. The cool and notable thing about it to me, it's very like pixel voxely, so it kind of reminded me of 3D Dot Game Heroes slightly. But the cool thing, and like the thing that was stood out to me, is there's a lot of characters you can play as from different indie games. So Shovel Knight, Bastion, Guacamelee, Enter the Gungeon, Lovers in a Dangerous Space Time, a few others.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Like that was exciting to see.
Really like the music in that trailer.
Yeah, like it looks like a fun game for sure. I think it looks significantly better than the other like 4-player co-op dungeon crawler that was in the other State of Play.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually thought it was that at first, but
Yeah. No.
nope. So next up after that we had
SOCOM.
yeah, so this
Oh
is
my gosh. I thought the whole time I was like, dude, this is it.
so we have a trailer that rolls, and this is for the like new Sony Worldwide Studios game.
Yeah.
I don't know that I necessarily thought SOCOM. A lot of other people did, to be fair, and I totally get it. I just, for whatever reason, I didn't. I was just kind of watching, being like, all right, what? I don't know. What is this? Turns out it is a Predator game. Being described as an online asymmetrical multiplayer shooter. It sounds a lot like... So it's like one player is Predator, 4 others or whoever are the soldiers.
Yeah.
So it sounds a lot like a number of other
Well,
of these style of game, like Friday the 13th.
It's made by the same developer too.
Yeah.
Ilphonic is the developer. Yeah, they did Friday the 13th. The Hunt Begins 2020 is what they say. Showed the Predator. Sure. Current, like I was even thinking, like they had that new Predator movie that just came out. Ghost Recon Wildlands had that Predator mission for a limited time, if you remember that. Where it was like you against the Predator, like your squad against the Predator. Like no one, I don't think anybody could play as the Predator.
Mm-hmm.
But they had missions where you like fight against him. I think this is a sign of things to come for SIE in particular. In a way that I feel like when you look at what people say, like their portfolio of games or whatever, like they really do miss out on like multiplayer focused games. Like you've had a Killzone that was there at launch, but a lot of the other stuff that comes out really is single player focused. So I think this is them trying to dive into a little bit of multiplayer kind of ecosystems.
Yeah, and I mean it could totally be like a pretty cool game. I don't really have any connection to Predator, but
yeah, me neither.
It definitely felt like the announcement was just kind of like a all right.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Okay,
yeah, I was like, all right.
So we had 3 other things. Next was Away, the survival series. I thought this looked cool. It was. There's a lot of questions I have about it, but it looked like a cool like survival kind of game.
I thought this was maybe what Wild got reworked into.
I definitely thought that at first.
And then for some reason I thought this is some like new like AAA budget Tokyo Jungle 2.
Which we need.
It's like, yeah, exactly. And I was like, no, it's not that. But it's set in a distant future and you play as a sugar glider, which is like this, whatever that was.
It's like a squirrel looking thing?
Yeah, it's like a flying squirrel. I don't know. It was like a ferret looking. I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
my animals very well.
A small rodent.
But yeah, a lot of it's supposed to be like stealth and stuff like that.
It reminded me of... I'm blanking on the name right now. God, it'll come to me. It was a game made by... I'm pretty sure it was the same people who made PID, if you remember that game.
A little bit.
They had a survival game. It had a very like very distinct art style, not really like realistic at all. But it was another survival game where you played as like a type of animal.
The Deer God.
No,
I don't know.
I'll look it up.
Okay.
But you keep going.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I was actually gonna maybe look it up too. I remember PID. I remember we talked about that like a few.
I am a big
months
fan
ago.
of PID.
Yeah. But so I don't. They announced the developer of this that I hadn't recognized at all. But apparently like, we don't really have any date or when it's coming. It almost sounded like it might be multi-platform in the future because it didn't necessarily say like
Shelter.
PS4 exclusive. Oh, Sheltered.
Yeah, Shelter.
Not Shelter.
That was the game it reminded me of, if you remember that.
Is it like they're like underground?
Yeah, so it's from the game, from developer Might and Delight. But it was like a survival game where you played as. Let me see if I can see what kind of animal this was.
This isn't the Team 17 game. Oh, okay, no. I was thinking because there's a game called Sheltered.
Yeah.
That was the one where I made the video for PSN stores, and I made the PSN stores crew.
Not that one.
Not that one. Okay.
Well, I guess you could potentially play as some different types of animals. I don't know.
Okay.
It reminded me a lot of that, basically.
Okay.
I didn't play too much of it.
Yeah. But yeah, is there anything even left to say? That was probably the least this is probably like the most underwhelming game I felt like of the whole thing. To me, I didn't really take anything desire to want to play away at all.
I at least thought it looked cool, and I would like to see more of it. Yeah.
Sure.
So that happens, and they reveal a new like Days of Play Steel Gray PS4. That's limited edition. More information to come on that. I thought that looked kind of slick, but
yeah,
that's cool. Okay.
Then there was the one you missed up above a little bit. The Medieval. We didn't talk too much about.
I did not mean to skip Medieval.
Yeah.
So they showed a new trailer for Medieval. It's coming out October 25th. It'll be $30.
Yep. It's a good price for it.
Yeah, it's a good price for it. Did you ever play the original Medieval?
I think I did a little bit as a PS1 classic. I think it was like remember early in the PS3, PS Plus, they just gave out a whole bunch of like minis and PS1 classics. I think that's where I originally
back in
played.
the days.
Yeah.
So I played probably like an hour of it of the beginning. That game does not age very well.
Yeah, I don't recall it being very fun. Controls being very wonky for the time.
I feel like I'm excited for Medieval. It's coming out at the perfect time, so like it's totally something that will get me because it'll be Halloween, and I'll be totally down to play a game like that. But I don't know that this necessarily looks great.
Yeah, I think it definitely looks. I was thinking about some of the other games that they've taken, like PS1 games, and granted, I guess they were the PSP versions, but like I was thinking about like Parappa and Patapon. Like this is like the one that kind of had more, I guess you maybe say realistic art style, more 3D kind of stuff.
I guess I should say, like, I think visually I'm fine with how it looks. I think the way it plays is more where I'm coming from. Like, I don't know if it looks like it is fun to play.
Yeah, it seems like it's a lot of just square.
Yeah,
probably
specifically
stuff.
the combat. Yeah, but we'll see. I'm like getting excited for it, and I'm curious to see how it'll turn out.
That I mean, to me, like game like that really feels like like I guess for me it would be a game that I'd buy for $30. I'd probably beat fairly quickly, and then probably do another replay of it to platinum it, and I'm probably done within like 10 hours probably. And then it's like, oh, probably just done with that now, probably never going to touch that again. That just kind of seems like what it's probably going to be for me.
Well, I mean, thankfully they saved something for us that it'll be something we'll be able to enjoy for many years to come.
Giant question mark. What could it be?
This is exactly what we wanted them to do. If you remember from our last discussion about State of Play, was don't give it away.
Yeah.
Give us those question marks. Give us those things where we wonder, what is it? What's it going to be?
Yeah.
So I believe the intro to the question mark was like, oh, and we wanted to give you an update on something you all have been waiting a very long time for, or something like that.
Yeah, long-awaited title or something like that.
It could not be more clear.
Yeah.
So we got an updated trailer for the Final Fantasy VII Remake. So it's a pretty healthy like dose of both cutscenes, some character reveals, and gameplay. It looks significantly better than so I was, I thought it looked good back way back in 2015 when they showed gameplay at the PlayStation Experience press conference. This looks a lot better. Like the character models look a lot better, the combat looks a lot better.
I have to go back and look and compare the two.
There's already some comparison videos out and
sure.
stuff like that. It's definitely more of a difference than you realize, I think. Here's the thing for me, I went back before the State of Play and I rewatched the initial reveal trailer from E3 2015.
Yep.
Which I still, to this day, however this turns out, I still think it is one of the most perfect trailers.
After the long calm.
Something
begins to stir.
There's just towards the end, I've always loved the voiceover part where it says something to the effect of this may bring great joy, it may bring suffering, but whatever may come, let us rejoice.
Yeah.
And so I just love the self-awareness of
yep.
You might love this or you might hate it, but whatever happens, let's be happy that we're able to do this, we're able to that we might actually have a chance to pull this off.
Yep.
And that's I love that mentality for one, at least from the trailer, right? This trailer kind of has a little bit of it at the beginning where it's the return has almost arrived or something like that. So again, the self-awareness of we know it's coming, but it's almost here. We're almost there to part one.
The return draws closer.
The return draws closer. I think Aerith or Eris or Aerith. It's spelled Aerith in the
Japanese
trailer. If you notice.
Oh, is it? I guess I didn't even notice that.
Yes.
Do you think they're gonna straight line that all the way?
I'm curious. Yeah. Well, so we can get into that, right? So trailer itself, right? So they have that. I think she looks perfect.
I think she looks great.
Sephiroth, we only see him from the back.
I thought Tifa looked really good. They don't show her in combat, but they show her.
Well, she's invisible.
Yeah.
We see her name.
Yeah.
I think Barrett looks great. I think Cloud looks great.
Well, there's there's the cutscene part where she's jumping over a turnstile, and they show Tifa, isn't it, with the red bandana?
That's not Tifa.
That's not Tifa? Who was? Oh, no. I thought that was Tifa.
That's Jessie. So she's one of the Avalanche members.
Oh, I thought that was Tifa.
So there's Biggs, Wedge, and Jessie, and they're with you at the beginning of the game.
Oh, okay. I thought that one was Tifa. Oh, never mind.
No.
Sorry.
Nope. You'll recognize Tifa. You'll know.
Okay. Because I thought I remember she looked like that and had hair like that.
No, she had black hair and.
Well, she kind of had some black hair. Anyways.
Tifa, her name is in the party menu during combat.
Yeah, I see that.
But her character model is nowhere to be seen.
Okay.
Yeah. So this it's pretty exciting. The trailer itself, I thought I got very excited, and then I started thinking, and now I'm in the danger zone right now, Collin, because now it's we're more in June, so we're gonna see more at Square Enix's E3 press conference. Mm-hmm. That's Monday night, so it's the prime time slot that Sony gave up this year.
Yep.
And then I started thinking more, and I see there's a tweet from Square Enix that's basically we've already got all of our plans leading up to launch. Just be patient, or something like that. And I just get to thinking, and it's this might be coming out soon. This might be farther along than we realize.
Yeah.
So Collin, I'm Team 2019, November. It's happening. Lock it in.
I'd say December. If I had to go for something, I'd say December, a 2nd to 6th kind of time frame, whatever the Tuesday or Friday is around there.
I could see that. I think this is something that considering what it is, this is the thing. This is something that will just, I imagine, will sell an unbelievable amount of units.
Yeah.
I would think. So some other tidbits real quick, and then I want to get into some just wild speculation.
Yeah.
So we know that it is still being developed as a episodic release.
Yeah.
It is still being developed into parts. We still do not know how many parts. We don't know where the cutoff is going to be for each, and the thing that I thought was actually interesting and maybe it'll change. This might be something that they were saving for the E3 press conference. But at least in the trailer, it was still just called Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Mm-hmm.
Believe me, like me, you, probably everybody watching that trailer was waiting for the episode 1 to like show up in the logo.
Episode 1, Avalanche, as Curtis predicted.
Yeah, something, right? Yeah, like just something like that. But nowhere to be seen. They could be holding on to that. But we do know that that's still the case, which in that front, it's like, okay, then this has to be like, surely they're releasing this soon then, like within the next year.
Yeah.
I would think. But it got me thinking again, like, and now that it's reemerged, now that it's back in the limelight, we're going to see more of it pretty soon. And I imagine we're probably going to start seeing it like often. Like, I don't think it's going to be that long between updates for this from here on out, at least for the first part.
Right.
Like, I think now, Kingdom Hearts 3 is out, Final Fantasy 15 is out. Like, everything's out. Like, this is what Nomura is working on. This is it. So I'm anticipating it to be like, this will be their next major Square Enix release that they're going to talk about every month or whatever.
I don't know though, because I mentioned it to you that usually, like, there was at one point we had three projects. They had 15, they had Kingdom Hearts 3 and Final Fantasy 7.
Sure.
So when you're like, oh, okay, this is time we heard more about 7, I was like, this is usually about the time Square Enix announces something that's has no idea that's even being worked on, and just be like, oh, I guess we're making this now.
That's very plausible. I guess the meaning is more like, we had those 3 things, but it was very clearly like 15 was the stuff we were getting news on. 15 comes out, okay, Kingdom Hearts 3 is the stuff we're getting news on now.
Yep.
I think there was even a quote very specifically about, we're holding off on Kingdom Hearts 3 news until 15 is out.
Yeah, I think I remember that.
And so I think that's where some of the logic comes from. But now I'm in this mode of like, okay, I'm back in it. This is all I'm thinking about. I'm super excited about this. But I keep thinking again about this may bring joy, it may bring suffering, but whatever it brings. And I'm thinking about just like the Avengers Endgame, and I'm thinking about all of these crazy things that are happening, especially with like nerd related culture, things that people have loved for so long, and they're coming back, or they're coming, like they're emerging in this really huge way that seems so crazy right now. This idea of these like long running movie cinematic universes, and taking these stories that people have grown up with and like really expanding them and putting them out in a whole new way. And the thing that's really exciting to me with Final Fantasy VII is it's a game and a series now that it's got all these spin-offs and movies and whatever. Like, there's potential here for them to do something really special with it. I've been thinking about like these live action remakes that Disney's putting out, and I'm totally eating up like the Lion King trailers and stuff. I'm there. I'm totally there and excited for that. Yeah. But one of the complaints that people have levied at, let's say, the Lion King, is at least every trailer we've seen for that so far, it just looks like it's a point for point, like shot for shot remake, and not really doing anything different. And what's exciting to me now that we're seeing some more Final Fantasy VII, is we're starting to see some changes. The scene in this trailer between Cloud and Sephiroth appears to be an entirely new sequence.
So this isn't probably the part where what's Cloud's town that goes on fire, and that's when Sephiroth's there. I can't remember. It's like a Norse kind of sounding thing.
Is it Niflheim?
Niflheim, yeah. That is that where we're assuming that.
So there's some speculation, and I think some of this is also because it's been the last time I played Final Fantasy VII was like a week after this remake was announced. So I might be missing up my timeline of the game. But it seems like I'm wondering if maybe, because it seems like a lot of people are speculating that that's actually a new scene, that it doesn't look like it's in Niflheim, which, to be fair, it's kind of hard to tell where it's at.
Yeah.
But part of me is wondering if it's because that sequence actually takes place after Midgar.
I was wondering if it's that temple scene maybe too.
Yeah, because and again, and that's important because a lot of people, myself included, are kind of leaning towards part 1 only being in Midgar.
Yeah.
In the original game, like the moment that you leave and you see the open world for the first time, like it's a really big moment in that game. And Midgar itself, you could turn into a pretty beefy game. So there's that. We're seeing some parts in the trailers that appear to be new things, and obviously the combat system itself is going to make this a very different kind of game. But I'm okay with that. Like, I'm totally okay with, and I want there to be new things. I want them to not necessarily change anything too dramatic, but they have a lot of story beats from Crisis Core. They have things that they can include in this, or, maybe not include, but they have things that they can change or things that they can adjust. While still staying true to Final Fantasy VII. Like, there's stuff that they can do with this game. That's really exciting to me.
So, So I have a couple questions. First, I want to say is what party member are you most looking forward to see in the new design?
There's only one, and if I mispronounce it, you'll have to forgive me, but I'm pretty sure the pronunciation is Kate Shi.
I always thought it was just Kate Sith, but you might be right.
That's what I thought too, but I've heard a lot of people. Let me look it up.
So quick. I was gonna originally go there, but I really think because right before I asked, I was like, I really want to see Red 13, what he looks like.
Yeah, that'll be really cool.
I think that'd look really neat.
So it's Ketshi.
Ketshi, okay. Yeah, I feel like I maybe knew that at some point.
Apparently, the name is Scottish Gaelic, meaning fairy cat.
Okay.
Supposedly.
Also, shout out, want to see my dude, Professor Hojo.
Yeah.
I'd like to see him, see what he looks like laying on the beach.
And
that one scene.
Yes. That's the other thing too. So we actually have like some early bosses that we've seen in this new trailer. Mm-hmm. There's one from the sewers where like people have already done the side-by-side comparisons, and it's cool to see that stuff. Like, and it's cool to see, what are the changes, like what kind of artistic like direction are they going to take with certain characters or certain monsters. There are definitely like summons in this game that I'm really curious to see what those even look like. Mm-hmm. I think the combat system, I'm expecting it to be pretty Kingdom Hearts-ish. Yeah. Considering who's working on it. I think that's probably where it's going to fall closer to than anything else.
Does it look like? Because I was trying to think like with the gameplay. Does it look more 15 or does it look more like Kingdom Hearts 3? Okay.
It looks more Kingdom Hearts.
Okay.
I saw a lot of people, a lot of just like complainers, basically like being like, "Oh, they made it like Final Fantasy 15," and like.
And I didn't expect them to make it turn-based.
Like just because we've known it wasn't going to be for a long time, but it doesn't just because it's live. Like I almost said live action, just because it's an action RPG, and not turn-based doesn't mean that it's Final Fantasy 15 combat. Mm-hmm. Like that's not the only game that is an action RPG. I think it appears to me, at least, even just menu UI, I feel like it got more in common with like a Kingdom Hearts style. It'll probably be a bit more realistic, or less. I don't know. Maybe it might still be pretty over the top. I don't expect Cloud to be like flying around and doing crazy, just insane like acrobatic moves though in the way that Sora does in Kingdom Hearts.
Is Cloud going to be in Tekken 7 like Noctis was?
Oh god.
I don't know. Anyways, so shout out to Adric Brathwaite on YouTube on the Final Fantasy VII Remake teaser trailer video with 2.2 thousand likes. Eris looks so pretty, but not as pretty as I'm going to make Cloud look going into Don Corneo's mansion. How do you think they're going to do that scene? Do you think that they're going to leave that all intact and all that, or just kind of given the circumstances of today's society, I guess?
Sure.
I didn't know what your kind of thoughts, how they do with that.
I don't know. I remember it being like it was definitely a major part of like conversation when the remake was first announced. And I don't really remember what my opinion was on it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So yeah, I don't know that I would be like upset if it was removed
Cross dressing for those
or
wondering.
yeah, like I don't know if it's got. I think it has to be in there in some fashion.
Right.
No pun intended.
No pun intended. Yeah.
I think it's got to be in there. I guess I wouldn't be surprised if it was toned down a bit, or there's definitely certain elements of it that are pretty like even more over the top than the scene itself. But I would imagine it will be in there. It'll probably be played for laughs or something.
Yeah.
And that I guess that's the other thing, right? Is like Cloud. In much of the media we see Cloud in these days is very like stoic, and there's not a whole lot of emotion there. And that's not really true to his character in Final Fantasy VII. Like he turns into that in some respects in parts of the game, but that's not really who he is for a lot of the game either. Like he has a personality. There is like definitely more to him as a character, and so I feel like we haven't really seen that too much since, Final Fantasy VII came out, because other than that, we get like Advent Children, which is mostly Cloud being a very serious, stoic character.
We ever gonna watch that together at some point?
We need to. Yeah, that was the plan. I've been thinking about rewatching it.
I haven't watched it yet. Still, so I have it. I just haven't watched it yet.
I need to. We should.
Yeah, and I there's parts of Final Fantasy VII that I remember, and this is even before I played the game. That once a certain character dies, it's just like the writing of Cloud, just of being like whatever, it was like my hands frozen, my eyes burning, my throat, whatever, my throat is dry, whatever, like however that was written or whatever. I just thought that was like so kind of powerful, just like descriptive, I guess.
Right.
Like I don't know, I always just thought like that was just probably one of my favorite lines of that entire, just kind of in that moment, and just like what he's talking through what's going on with him right now. I think it's just incredible. But yeah, I think there's a lot of parts that he definitely does have more personality than just like, I guess I'm just a follower going over here doing this.
Like, and obviously a lot of it's like in the earlier game, and then when the major like event happens, like he definitely changes.
Yeah.
And he kind of snaps out of it, towards like the third act of the game itself. But yeah, like I'm excited to see that Cloud again. I guess I'm excited to see like that characterization return.
Yeah.
It'll be cool to see, like, I mean, the golden saucer, like that'll be something else.
I was gonna ask what location you were most excited to see. I think golden saucer to me probably.
It's definitely up there. I'm trying to think. I'm blanking on a lot of locations now just because it has been so long. It'll be really exciting to see what Midgar is. Yeah. How open is it?
Now, here's what I'm also thinking. Do you think when we actually see Midgar fully, do you think they're going to take a lot of inspiration, or like, long story short, do you think the Midgar that we see in Smash Brothers is kind of like the Midgar it's going to be in this game? Like, do you think like that was like a design of
maybe
Midgar that they had?
Probably. I don't know.
Yeah, or like even like the summons, like Bahamut or whoever is there. Like, is it like from Smash Brothers? Is that probably the design we're going to get for them?
I could see it, I guess, just because like
I hadn't thought
already
about
working
that.
on it. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know what kinds of like decisions would go into deciding whether or not it was or wasn't.
Right.
Like I have, there are so many things that are like coming back to my mind now that this trailer is out and we're talking about this game again. And so I'm trying my best to think only of like, what do I think will be in the first part?
Yeah.
Because my hope is for E3, and we'll probably talk more about it next episode when we do like E3 predictions. My hope is, while like obviously they're not going to talk about the other parts of the game, I hope they give a pretty clear outline of how many parts. Like, these are the questions I want answered, right? I want to know how many parts are there going to be. Is it 3? Like, that's kind of where a lot of people have been guessing, and that's probably the most logical. Is it 2? Is it 3? Is it 4? I would like to know, at least for the first one. I don't know. I guess it's tough because they probably don't want to like be like, this is where it ends or this is how it ends. But I would like to have a pretty good idea of where the splits are, or maybe more likely, what was their reasoning? Like, what were the things that ultimately they landed on to decide where they wanted to cut the story? I'd like to know what the design of Midgar is like for this game, because at least in Final Fantasy VII, it's relatively linear. Like, you explore a decent amount of Midgar, but it's not like open necessarily. Like, it's a lot of just like areas that are kind of connected.
Right.
There's a little of exploring that you can do, but not a whole lot. The trailer itself that we see this week seems to like implies that like the bombing mission, there's a timer that is at least twice as long, which makes sense because it would imply that that reactor is probably a bit bigger than in the original game, so you need more time to run through it. So that makes sense. But like, yeah, I think just the project as a whole, I want to know. Oh, and the other thing is, like, let's say it comes out later this year. Let's say it's early 2020. Do they have a plan? Hopefully they do, but is it going to be a thing where it's every 2 years?
Yeah.
Do they have a plan for that, basically? Like, my hope is, and it's been my hope ever since they announced that it would be episodic, is that a very large amount of work would have gone into the first part, and then the next parts would be maybe a little faster because they had a lot of groundwork laid out for them.
Yeah. They got assets made, stuff like that. Yeah.
Ideally, and then the combat's tweaked. There's so many questions I want to know. I'm hoping that the logistics of everything is something that they're willing to talk about. Like, are we starting at level 1 in every part? Is there a level cap of like, does the first part have like a level cap of 30 or something like that? There's a lot of questions I have, basically.
What $2,000 collector's edition can I buy exclusive to the Square Enix store?
Oh man, yeah. Yeah, so lots and lots of questions that hopefully we'll get answers to sooner rather than later.
I just had one other question. I mean, I could go on with a whole bunch of other questions. But one thing I was kind of curious, your thoughts is, what do you think of the voice acting? Like, do you like it? I don't hate it or I don't hate it or anything. I just was curious about it.
I'm somewhere between I'm fine with it and I like it, but there's really not a lot that we've heard.
Right.
I thought Aerith sounded great. Mm-hmm. There's like maybe 1 or 2 lines from Cloud, so it's kind of hard to tell. There's one line from Sephiroth.
Barrett
so
don't
really have a I feel like there's been some reaction to like, not just Barrett, I think, but I think in general I've definitely seen like different takes on the voice acting. But honestly, like there's a good amount of voice acting in that trailer, but there's not a lot either.
Right, and it's just, like,
it's a very small amount of what will be a whole lot, I imagine. So I don't know. We'll see. I know like a lot of those characters, from my understanding, like they have people who are the voices of those characters. People were speculating whether or not Cloud was a new person or not because they think it sounds different from the guy who usually voices him. And I think Sephiroth is a different person. He definitely... Or, well, I guess it depends, right? Because, like, there's a voice actor for Sephiroth in Kingdom Hearts, but I don't think that's who's voicing him anymore.
Was he, like, the same voice actor for, like, the other, like, for Advent Children and...
Well, so in Kingdom Hearts, it was Lance Bass.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Man, wow.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So I'm pretty sure that's not who has voiced him elsewhere in other media. Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I would think, I mean, I would imagine that the typical voice actors for them are the people who did Advent Children.
Yeah, I think Cloud has a voice, I assume, in like the Dissidia games and Yeah. Well, I think that's about all we got for news. We're going to hear probably more about, like, it's like, I saw a tweet 30 days today, 30 days away from E3.
30 days away, yeah.
Ugh.
It's exciting. So I think, like I said earlier, I think next episode will probably be our E3, like, predictions and stuff, and it should line up, or actually, think about it more. What we'll probably do, Colin, is we have an episode that we'll record, and then the episode after that will actually be the weekend that E3 starts. So we can probably do like of starting like predictions of like a couple of, like maybe the first couple press conferences, and then the next episode do predictions for like Square Enix and Nintendo or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe split them up. We'll see.
I was also wondering, just because, like, you know, we got the announcement of the Ghost Recon Breakpoint. And like, you know, I guess this is about the time where they start announcing things that's like, oh, you know, more info at E3 kind of thing.
That's true.
So we'll I feel like by that time, I wonder if it's like, oh, we just know everything already. I don't know.
That could happen. So moving on from that, so we can talk about some games we're playing. I don't really have too much to say. Last few days or last like week or so, I've started like a lot of games, but I'm not really far into any of them, so I don't really have much to say. But maybe next time, I should have finished Wolfenstein 2, which I'm probably like a fourth of the way into right now. That came out on Game Pass. Yeah. So I downloaded that. I'm like, okay, great. We were just talking about the upcoming like expansion DLC or whatever. For that. So now it's time to play that. That's been pretty good so far.
What'd you think about that opening?
So I've actually played that opening before. Like I played the demo when it first came out. So I had played the opening before, which actually made playing it again kind of like a slog because you're in the wheelchair, so it's like really slow.
Yeah, I meant the kind of even just being as a kid part and that kind of stuff at the very beginning.
I feel like that was in the first game too. Like I couldn't remember. It's been a long time since I played the first game, but I seem to remember that being a sequence in the first game.
I don't remember it in the first game. I just remember the first game was also a terrible slog because you're in that airplane for like the first majority part of that game. It felt like.
Yeah, that's true. So I started up actually yesterday playing Gears 4.
Oh hell!
Yeah, which I'm like, it's my first Gears game period, other than playing some multiplayer like of Gears 2 when it first came out. I am almost done with the first act. So I don't have too much to say on that just yet. I figured like I want to play it, and then I'm also because like the Gears 5 trailer from last E3 I actually thought looked pretty good. So I figure I might as well play this one.
I love the fact that I've got the other Gears of War games that I've been talking about here and there, and then you'll talk about Gears 4, and it's like we've talked about all the Gears games.
It's the Gears cast.
Yep.
I also then yesterday just started. I played like the first few missions of Sunset Overdrive, so probably the first like 40 minutes of that game, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love a weapon wheel.
Yeah,
I love leveling weapons up. All that stuff.
They know how to make good games.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it's fun. It's colorful. It's nice. Like some of
the humor I felt has been because I played just like the opening. Main thing of it. I feel like some of the humor is trying a little too hard, I guess.
For sure. It's not necessarily my style of humor either.
And this is gonna be a weird thing. I just do not like character customization stuff. Like, oh, your eyebrows and your hair. It's like I do not like. Because I just like I'm a person who is like, okay, just give me the Uncharted, like this is what my character is. He's Nathan Drake, you know, just then take me through your story. I'm really bad at like, oh, I don't know how I want my character to look, and I don't know, you know what I mean? Because like I feel like, you know, like they're not really telling me a story, like I'm trying to create my own story. It's like I don't care what I want, like I want you to tell me something cool. But yeah, I think it's fine. I think some of the humor is trying a little too hard at times. But again, I'm very, very early into it. I'm sure it's gonna rope me in.
And these are all like when I first got my Xbox and I had like Game Pass. I downloaded a lot of these with the full intentions of playing through them because I'm like, well, I should do this, and I never did. So I'm like, this is me now being like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna play through these games and make sure I'm actually using this thing.
Yeah.
And so then I started ReCore, and I played about 30 minutes of that as well. And ReCore is it was one of the early like Xbox exclusives that I remember seeing and thinking, oh wow, like that looks cool. I want to play that.
Yep.
But then it came out and it kind of like had some middling reviews, and I kind of lost interest in it over time. But I've always been curious about it. And like kind of starting out ReCore, there's definitely parts of it that you kind of feel like going back to it now, you feel like the progress we've made elsewhere in video games. Like you definitely feel some datedness to it. But overall, like, and I remember when we started seeing gameplay of it. So it's like a third person action adventure game. You have this gun that you can use, and so when you're aiming at enemies, it does like an auto lock on. And I remember seeing that and thinking, oh, that's kind of dumb. Like that almost feels like it'd be too easy. But I actually kind of appreciate it. To be honest, like I appreciate not having to worry about aiming. That I can just like auto lock on and switch between targets. It's got this cool mechanic where when you get a target's health bar down to a certain like amount, you can press a button to try and pull out like a core, like an energy core that's inside the robot or whatever the machine is that you're fighting. And so you do this kind of like tug of war mini game to pull it out, and if you pull it out, like the enemy is defeated. And you can actually use that for crafting, or you can just kill the enemy. But like it's you can do it with like boss enemies as well. I think it's kind of how you finish a boss, or at least the first one I fought. So it's kind of this like it's a cool mechanic, and you've also got your buddy. So I've just got the dog right now named Mac. And so you can command your buddies to like do attacks or to do other things. You can have them search areas, and they'll find different like items or tools that you can use in the environment. So it seems pretty neat so far. I'll probably bounce between these games over the next few weeks, I'm sure.
Is this did they come out with the like definitive edition or something like that?
Yeah, this is the definitive edition version that's on Game Pass.
That has the extra core. Do you remember that whole thing?
I don't remember. No.
So I felt like there were my understanding was that it had like the box art or something like that showed like 4 different cores, but then when the game came out, like there's clearly one on the box art, but it's like just not in the game at
weird.
all.
Well, I'll be able to give you an answer for sure.
Yeah, that was I remember that just being I felt like I remembered something about that.
Weird.
But yeah.
So anyways, I've not played very much of those games. Wolfenstein 2 I've played more of, like a few hours of. Some of it farther along in that. But I'll wait till I finish before I talk about that. I did fully complete RE2 Resident Evil 2, but I want to save that for like maybe a one-off or something later on down the line.
I'd like to do that for sure.
And then I went back to the Swords of Ditto.
Yeah, I saw you were playing that.
So this game came out last year. It's kind of a roguelike meets Legend of Zelda style of game, and I was very excited for it when it first came out. I bought it, played a few hours, and kind of dropped off, and didn't really go back to it. Similar to actually Moonlighter was another game I got very excited about, played a little, and then dropped off. For a variety of reasons for both of them, but Swords of Ditto specifically, I definitely fell off just because I don't know that I was really enjoying myself that much, and it seems like that was actually pretty common for a lot of people. So they recently put out this really huge update called Mormos Curse. Mormo is the big bad villain in the game. It's got a similar setup to Breath of the Wild, where you can go fight the big bad at any point, or you can go through these dungeons and beat the bosses in those dungeons to weaken the main villain. So it's similar to Breath of the Wild in that respect. But what they did, so in the original game, you had like a time limit. So the story was every 100 years, the Sword of Ditto would wake up and challenge Mormo, basically. And when you would wake up, you would have like 4 days to explore the world, find the Toys of Ditto or Toys of Legend, which were like just special weapons that you could unlock, And then you could also, within that time, you would be able to find the like pillars of Mormo, or I don't remember the name of them, but they were special dungeons that you would go through, beat the boss, and weaken Mormo. But all of it was on a time limit.
Mm-hmm.
And it made it like it was pretty hard to do all that stuff in that time limit. And also, if you die, you're completely restarting. So I guess there was just a lot of things that people, like reviewers or just players, like kind of complained about or didn't like, and so they went back and they scrapped a lot of the format of the game. So there is no longer a time limit. If you die, it's not permadeath, and so you'll reawaken, but it'll still be the same run. If you die in Mormo's like castle at the very end when you're going to challenge him, then it's permadeath. But anytime before that, it's not. And then like the level of your sword, will always stay the same, so you don't lose those levels either. So there's a bit more permanence that they've added to it,
Mm-hmm.
and they've made some other adjustments as well. So I was playing through it. I ended up beating Mormo last night, actually, or yesterday. So I guess there's other things to do. Like when I beat Mormo, it actually just initiated a reset to a new character. But there is a trophy for breaking the curse. So I don't know specifically what that entails. It sounds like there's more stuff for like more in-game stuff that they've included, but I don't know. I don't know that I'm necessarily going to keep playing. Because even with the changes, like it's cool and I appreciate a lot of it. And it does sound like there's some interesting like lore that you can find regarding like just the world itself. But I'm not really feeling the pull to keep playing it now that I beat Mormo. I'm kind of feeling like I've done it.
Yeah.
And one of the things I was thinking of yesterday is your character still just moves really slow. And for a game that you could potentially be doing like cycles through, exploring the world itself, like it still takes a good amount of time. If you think about another game that I've actually gone back to recently, and I'll probably talk about in a future episode, is Enter the Gungeon.
Yeah.
And you think about like Enter the Gungeon or Rogue Legacy or Binding of Isaac, is there's a lot to these games, and you can play them for a very long time. But a run in and of itself, even if you go through and actually beat it, like it's not that long. It's probably under an hour. You know, like if you do Enter the Gungeon and you get through and you beat it, or at least you beat the dragon or whatever. Granted, there's a lot more to do after that, but if you do that, at least like you're probably looking at 40 minutes to 50 minutes, right?
Right.
Whereas I think sort of Ditto, like from the start, going all the dungeons, getting the toys, like going to Mormo, beating Mormo, like that's a lot of time. Like it's probably a good like 4 or 5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just, now that I beat it and I've awakened as a new sort of Ditto, like I don't really feel a strong pull to keep playing. But that said, like it's kind of interesting to see a developer do that, to take that kind of feedback to heart and like really completely change a lot of very key design components to their game, like things that they probably believe in. You can still access the time limit and some of the like original formatting, like with the harder difficulty. But the base like normal difficulty is like a very different kind of thing, which is interesting. Like there's no, with it not having a time limit or anything like that. It's a dramatic change, but it doesn't. I think playing it, it doesn't feel as dramatic as I thought it might.
Mm-hmm.
So,
did you review this game back on PSN
No.
stores, or was this game even out at that time?
This came out last year,
Yeah.
so it was post.
Oh,
PSN
okay.
stores.
Really? I thought this was like 2 years ago at this point.
Nope.
Okay. Yeah, I felt like I've heard about this game for quite a while, but
Yeah.
okay. All right. Well, neat.
It still has a great art style, and I love like the way it looks for sure. But
yeah, I remember it looking very good. And I always think it's like the swords of Ditto, not sword of Ditto. Like I always remember that was always kind of a weird thing. That was like, oh, it's I don't know.
yeah,
Because I always remember that was a thing, like people were mispronouncing it and people were talking about it or something like that. I don't know. Well, is it my turn?
Mm-hmm.
Talking about video games. So I finished up Oxenfree, platinumed it. It's probably
Nice.
been a few weeks since then. I'm still kind of confused on some aspects of that game.
Yeah.
Like there's multiple endings, and I'm still kind of confused on like what happens specifically, or like why when I did this thing happened. Like it deals a lot with like ghosts and kind of like a little bit of like going back in time and seeing visions and stuff like that. I didn't end up doing a full extra playthrough, but I did go like so. Basically, if you replay the game, it's kind of a little bit of a new game plus in a way. That you're like, wait a minute, like we've done some of this before
Yeah,
already.
there's some like deja vu dialogue options and stuff. Yeah.
And it didn't seem very. It just kind of seemed like, oh, every once in a while one of those popped up. It wasn't like all the time. But it did kind of seem like you can get to a point where, long and short of it, you're kind of just in a loop. I'm not going to spoil, I guess, like what the loop is or whatnot, but I guess like you can maybe even break it at some point. So I think that's kind of neat. Like I didn't really want to keep playing to get to that point. But the platinum is, it's pretty straightforward. Just doing with the different endings, getting all the collectibles like letters and finding out like these different frequencies with your radio. There was a playthrough with like just not even talking at all, which that was kind of neat. Just because like just how some of the other characters just respond, of just like just like, hello, are you there? Like just all of this stuff, and it's like, well, anyways, Alex couldn't join us right now, but we're going on talking about something like this, and you're just like standing right there with dialogue options. You're just not pressing anything. So they really just covered like every single little base. That was like it felt like just literally any option of a whole entire conversation. Like even if you answer the first question but don't answer the second and third questions, but then answer the fourth, like it just felt like whatever way you answered it, it felt really natural, and it felt like felt really smooth. But other than that, it wasn't too bad. Still really like the music and just kind of the overall vibes of it. I don't necessarily know if it's going to be a game I'm like thinking about in like 2 years, really. I'd be like, oh yeah, I remember that, and I kind of remember having a good time with it. But it didn't really leave a whole big like lasting effect on me, I guess I'd say. But yeah, finished that up. Another game I've been playing that really has just kind of been a little bit of, it's basically my VR comfort food, I'll basically just say, is Tetris Effect. Nice. So basically I actually
Speaking of which, I don't know if you saw, not to interrupt you too much,
no,
but
you're
I
good.
did.
It's okay.
Did you see that Tetris 99 got like DLC?
I did. I can't remember what it's called, but it's got, actually has other modes. You can just
so for $10 you get like an offline 99 mode, just against 98 other CPUs. And there's a marathon mode, so it's like just Tetris.
Yeah.
But then there's also, if you buy that, you're also like locked into like other modes that are coming later.
Right.
And the other thing, so like this is obviously a free download for Nintendo Switch Online. But from my understanding is you can buy this and play it like without the subscription to the online service. You can play the offline mode.
Okay.
So I'm thinking about doing it because I'm not subscribed to Switch Online anymore at the moment, but
yeah, I'm still part of that Amazon thing, so maybe. And also, yeah, if you're like an Amazon Prime, Twitch Prime subscriber, you can get a free year of Nintendo Switch Online, which is pretty cool. So you redeem 3 months, and then after 3 months, you can redeem the other 9 months, which is pretty cool. So, FYI for those out there. But yeah, I ended up playing Tetris Effect. So it's kind of like Tetris Effect and like even like Street Fighter V are like my weekly games a little bit. So I don't know if you see me still playing Street Fighter V every once in a while.
Sometimes.
Yeah, so it's basically like each week, they reset the fight money challenges and get like a new costume you can unlock every couple of weeks. So like I just kind of jump in and play that for like takes me like 15-20 minutes to just get all that stuff. But yeah, the other one is Tetris Effect. I really jump into it for the like weekend ritual thing. So it's basically like you have, I think it ends up being like 16 different modes, and every 4 of them are like there's 4 of them that's like classic. There are another 4 modes are like relaxing. The other 4 are like focus kind of stuff. So like a quick play with like not very hard difficulty, that's more of a relaxed mode. The marathon mode that you like clears 150 lines as fast as you can, like that's a classic mode. So each week on Saturday there's a theme, and when you do that, you kind of gain points to complete the weekly ritual, and then if you do that, each time you complete one of those either like classic, focused, relaxed modes, you get like a chance at like a higher rare type avatar to unlock. And so you can kind of just keep on like grinding those out and keep getting extra XP, which levels you up. It gets you extra things. So I actually finally just hit level 50, which permanently unlocks the 1989 Tetris level. And I don't know if have you seen that, Curtis?
Maybe.
So, did you ever play Tetris Effect? I can't remember if we ever talked about this. Okay, so, so it's a secret like theme, secret level. The only way previously to get the 1989 theme and play on it is you have to at least complete like the weekly ritual, like the, and I guess I guess I should preface it in being like, it's like an online leaderboard kind of thing. Like everybody like playing the game puts in these points, and so like, you know, if all of these people reach this certain limit, then that means like it's completed. But once it's completed, then you can play as 1989. But if you get to level 50, it permanently unlocks, and it basically has the theme and soundtrack of the classic Game Boy Tetris game. Like that it has like, you know, the classic song like do 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 do, like all of that, and then like it's got this like crazy remix kind of into it. But so like it's really cool. I'd recommend checking it out on like YouTube or something like that. It's pretty cool.
I'll look into it.
Yeah. So I did that. Ended up getting to level 50. I'm terrible at Tetris, but I've just played it enough to get to that point. Still, again, just ran through the classic journey mode in VR. It's still fantastic. Like it's great playing like on a 1080p TV with like headphones, but man, you put the VR headset on, you lose like a little bit of like graphic fidelity, but it is just so cool. Like when you have like one I was thinking is like the dolphin surf level, which is like, you know, eventually we get to the part where you've got like dolphins like jumping up like above you, like when you're playing Tetris basically, and just being able to like look to your left and right and seeing like these dolphins just like jump everywhere. It's so much cooler than just seeing it on a flat screen. My favorite level, I think, in the entire game is the deserted one. So it starts off, you're in a desert and there's like camels and people like walking through the desert, and then eventually you get to like the halfway point, and then it zooms up, and then like you're on the desert of the moon, and like this moon rover is like driving around. They got all the stars, and just the music's fantastic. Just even if you do have just the plain base game, just somehow, some way, go to a friend's house, something like that, try and play Tetris Effect in VR. It is absolutely fantastic, and it's still basically been installed on my PS4 ever since. And even when I felt like, okay, I'm kind of done, I kind of got all the trophies I can get, like really the next step in this game is to like, it's like one of the hardest platinums on PS4 also, because you gotta like SS rank like all of the expert levels, which is like, you know, high-end Tetris players that you see can do that. But I just still have it on my console, and I just don't feel like I want to delete it yet, just because like there's just gonna be some point I'm just gonna have like a crappy day, and I'm just like, you know what, I just want to put this headset on, I want to put some headphones on and just get sucked away in that world. There might be some news coming soon for Tetris Effect. They've been doing this poll online the past week of they're gonna like make a theme. And so they already made one for the I can't remember, but it's like the song called like Yours Forever, which is like the one that was the original trailer. Like, so they already made like a theme of that you can buy. But then they basically had a poll, like they ran through like all of the different, did like a tournament of all the different themes, and whichever level won out of this entire poll, they would make a theme around it. And it sounds like, because today as of recording was like the last day for voting on them, and it sounds like the Metamorphosis, which is like the very last level, it sounds like that might be the theme that they might be making. Cool. It's going to be free for a limited time, but I do think they also made some comment about like, yeah, like we've got some other news, and I don't know if it's like multiplayer, because like, that you can't play with anybody else, and
Tetris Effect 99.
Exactly. Tetris competing against itself. I don't know. But yeah, super excited.
What if it's like Tetris Effect Infinite?
So this is the weird thing.
It just keeps flooding chant like people in.
Oh, so I thought. Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna mean like Effect Infinite, like Res Infinite. Where, because like how Res Infinite had the Area X stuff. Well, there's like Area X references in Tetris Effect. So I was like, oh, okay, naturally. Like seriously, like there could be like an Area X. Like what if a new Area X is like added to the game, and it's crazier than Area X and Res Infinite. I don't know. I love Mizuguchi, his games. I love Enhance, people that did like Res and the new Luminous and stuff like that. So really excited to see what they do next. The last one on this list, you're probably as surprised as I am to see it on the list.
Yeah.
This basically got to a point where I gone through previous PlayStation Plus games, and I was just looking through my massive library full of stuff that I've, basically put on my account and then never played. And I kind of finally came across Zombi, and I was like, I never did play that. So I actually started playing it, and I only intended playing it for like 30 minutes. I intended to like play it and just be like, oh, okay, like whenever I'm done with it, like, like whenever I die, then that's going to be the end of it. So I think I had some different interpretation, I guess, of what this game was. So I kind of, in a way, thought it was like permadeath in a way that, so Zombie is a Wii U game. Zombie U put it out on PS4, Xbox One, maybe a year or two ago. I thought it was, okay, so you're a survivor, you get your backpack, you go get this key card, then you do, like you get this key card, but then you turn these, like you're going and doing different missions. But then when I assumed when you died, you had to do all of that stuff over again. But you don't, you just go back to where your last guy died that has your backpack, and then kill him and take the stuff. So that, like, did you kind of have that same understanding? Like, I thought you had I thought I have to go grab the key card again and this again.
No, because before I played it back on the Wii U, it was kind of described more of like a Dark Souls style of loss of progress.
Gotcha.
Where you're going back to the location to pick up the things that you lost. But the twist on this was like you could potentially run into your own zombie, or you could run into other things.
Yep.
And you were technically a different character.
Yeah, and you are a different character, and so like even when you wake up, it like shows like your new, like if you die and then you restart, it shows like your new survival time starting at 1. It has your new name, all that stuff. So in a way, you would think, okay, then what's really the point of dying if you can just go and get all your stuff back, which is kind of true. But with any of the firearms that you use, the more like shots landed or kills you get with it, it kind of like levels up the gun a little bit. And I don't know if that is just like increased stats, like increased firepower kind of stuff like that. But if you die on that character, you lose all of that. But you do get like the physical upgrades you've made to the guns. You actually get to keep that. But, like your person character about like, oh, I've landed this many shots and upgraded it a little bit in this way. You lose that if you die with the character you're on. So yeah, it takes place in London. You go to like Buckingham Palace. You go to some other places you go to Tower of London. Then there's like some other places I don't really remember. But it's the kind of tropes where some of it can be excuse me, a little fetch questy a little bit where oh, okay, well, you have to go get fuel, and you're like, oh, okay, now I'm gonna get this fuel. I'm like, oh, but there's this other guy that has fuel. Well, this guy needs this, so now you gotta go do this thing, so then you can get that, then go get the fuel. Like a little bit of kind of stuff like that. Combat is actually really hit or miss for me. I think the biggest thing, I think you can get through this game pretty easily with just like the cricket bat that starts you off with. You can get like a shovel and then like a spike back for physical weapons. But I think it's supposed to be like, hey, you're supposed to use the kind of physical weapons because, you know, you don't have as much ammo to shoot around with. But I basically got through, I feel like 3/4 of that game before I even died once. And I don't know if that's normal or whatnot, but I felt like this game was pretty easy for the most part. Okay. And I felt like every time I died, it was kind of a BS kind of thing. So one part I remember is, it's clearly like this room, like, oh, okay, well, I can walk in here and there's all these zombies, or wait a minute, I saw this air duct in the previous room that, then I can be on a higher level. And so I ended up like jumping on top of this bookcase out of this air vent. I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to bring out my inventory and I'm going to throw a like Molotov cocktail and, try and burn them all. And when you go into the menu, the action doesn't stop. It, continues to play. So you can't just, open the backpack anytime you want and pull out something. You're going to get attacked. Mm-hmm. For some reason, the animation of my character pulling out the backpack, like moved me forward a little bit. Oh, okay. And it moved me forward and then it dropped me off the cliff. And then like all of the enemies just swarmed me and killed me. It was really frustrating.
I wonder what kind of difference, because I never played the PS4 version. Mm-hmm. I played on the Wii U where you would look down at the tablet,
right,
to adjust inventory or pick out different items, and so like that kind of added to the element of it not pausing.
Yeah, that's true.
This idea of like, oh, I'm looking at my backpack, like it was kind of a cool thing, and it, to me at least, made like the Wii U version like the way to play it.
Yeah.
But in that respect, I wonder, like, I don't know what kind of differences were made, or if there were changes made to the PS4 or Xbox version.
Yeah, you can really tell that this game was designed for another console. Yeah. Generally, like even scanning, you press like you'd hold the tablet up and scan something on the TV. You end up like holding L1 and you just move around and scan. Like basically, it's like you bring up some little mini tablet in game. And scan, like they called it like a bob or something like that. I can't remember what it was called, what it stood for. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like graphics I think are okay. It looks like a Wii U launch title. Like if that's what I can basically say about the graphics. It's really not all that long, which I kind of actually a little enjoyed. It is pretty straightforward, like getting to this place, going to that place. Then when you meet like this person, these things happen. So that's pretty straightforward. I actually intend on probably platinuming it in the next few days. So originally, I just played it. I just didn't really think I'd really play much more of it. But then I just kept going and going and going. And I'm like, I am just not dying. Like, I think I can beat this whole thing. And I end up quite enjoying it. The last thing I have to do is beat the game on Survivor difficulty, which is basically once you die, it's complete game over. So you don't get like multiple people to play as, which in a maybe a normal sense I wouldn't, but I am using kind of an exploit, doing the cloud save backup. So like if I die, just reload my cloud save with my Survivor guy. And that's really just because like every death I feel like I've had is just some kind of BS thing. Like I got stuck on something, or like my backpack ended moving forward. It's just some of those things. So I've kind of been using the cloud save backup to get through the game on the Survivor difficulty. So if I die, I got to start the whole thing over again. I don't want to do that. But it's entertaining. It really is filling in that BioShock kind of itch that I've had a little bit, where it's like you're going around and like here's a new area and like you're scrounging around for stuff, and it's I'm like, oh, okay, well, I've got far enough, I can just move on to the next area. But like, oh, but there's like this whole other section of this level like I haven't even explored yet. And it's like, oh, I could go over there and see what else I can find. And like, that's also what I always loved about like BioShock, that it's like, oh, well, I can go back to this area and scrounge this entire place, or I could just straight on go to the next level. So it really kind of scratched that itch for me. I don't know how much it is on PSN. I guess I'd have to look now. Maybe 20 or 30 or something.
I was
like
thinking
that.
maybe 20.
Yeah. I assume this was a $60 game. Back
On
in
Wii
2012.
U?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it
sure
was. Yeah, I might have been a little upset if I had bought it for 60. But I don't know.
I remember really liking it a lot.
Yeah, it is pretty neat. I'm glad they re-released it on PS4 and like Xbox One and stuff. I think it'd be kind of cool to see like a sequel to it.
Yeah, well, that's the dream. That's the dream.
Zombie to you. Zombie to you.
Zombie to you.
But yeah, that's about all I've had
well, cool.
this week.
Well, Collin, it's been fun.
Yeah.
It's been a good time as always.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're right. I think 2 weeks from now, we're probably going to be seeing a lot more of these like pre-E3 announcements.
So
we'll be really in the thick of it.
I'm going to make a prediction.
Okay.
I'm going to predict this next week, as of recording, the week starting like today, May 12th, I think we're going to get some teases for the new Call of Duty. I think we're going to get some like Modern Warfare 4, Infinity Ward teases. I think like we could maybe see that now the Ghost Recon news is out of the way. Maybe see some Watch Dogs teases.
Yeah.
Coming up.
So I think not this week, unlike your teases. I think the week after, we're gonna see teases for the Harry Potter game that was leaked.
Oh yeah.
Kind of, a long time ago.
Yeah.
That game is probably next gen. I wouldn't be surprised if it maybe it pops up.
I have no desire for anything Harry Potter, honestly.
Well,
I'm not really a Harry Potter dude. So, yeah.
Well, anyways, Collin, it has been fun. We'll see each other in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, another fortnight.
And until then,